certain creators need to make an affirmative declaration of fair use to say, yes, I am using this underlying IP, but I am adding extensive commentary and I'm transforming the nature of this thing. And I am not usurping the original purpose of this movie or TV show or song, and make an affirmative declaration to then give the creator the benefit of the doubt.
So you're saying even like at the upload, they're saying this is a song that's in it and I'm using it and we're doing it for fair use. So it's just basically a part of the process of the upload?
Yes, exactly. And it could
that would actually be brilliant. Yeah.
You could actually even use the exact same options that you get when you have to fight a copyright dispute.
In this episode, we're talking with Devin Stone, the creator of the YouTube channel Legal Eagle. As a successful litigation and trial lawyer who received his law degree with honors from UCLA, Devin spent his time working on several civil and criminal Ninth Circuit appeals and drafted positions of published opinions. Devin's true passion is helping people understand the law, and he grew his YouTube channel from 10,000 subscribers to over 500,000 subscribers in just a few months.
This is Creative Disruption, the intersection where entertainment, data, and creativity meet. Here's your hosts, Ricky Ray Butler and Derral.
Welcome back to the Creative Disruption podcast, where we talk about everything that's disrupting the industry. And I'm joined by my friend, Ricky Ray Butler. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm doing fantastic.
Well,
I'm glad to be here again.
Again and again and again. I always like hanging out with you. I don't know why that is.
I wish I could say the same.
I see how you are. Well, Ricky.
I was joking.
No, you never joke. You're always serious. But there's a couple things I want to go over. And I think this discussion that we need to have is how naive creators are in the industry when they first come in. There's a lot of smart creators coming in now. But for years, we've witnessed a lot of people coming into the industry that are a little naive on what to do, what not to do, and so on and so forth. What's one of the biggest blunders you've seen a content creator make, and just kind of almost tank their whole career?
Sure. There's a couple different things, but I'd say one thing that people need to develop when they get into this space, especially as they start growing and gaining momentum, is to be very careful who you trust and trusting everything that you hear. I can't tell you how many horrible contracts I have heard of that creators have gotten themselves involved with, whether it's working with television or being like a YouTuber joining an MCN.
Right.
There's just a lot of horror stories that can happen in entertainment. There's a lot of sharks out there, and you have to just make sure that you're navigating everything and making good friends that you can trust that can help you with the process.
Yeah, I think for me is a lot of creators, they don't treat it as a business. They're like, hey, I'm creating content. I'm a creator.
I'm a celebrity.
I'm a celebrity. and then the views die. What's bringing the ad revenue in? And they're like, oh, I'm back at McDonald's flipping hamburgers. Not that's a bad thing,
right.
But when you have...
But this is one of those things I think have been pretty common in the last 10 years where people have become really big when it came to, like influencer standards, like let's say 5-6 years ago, and then where they just tanked and they've had to look for other forms of revenue.
Right.
Or I do know someone that, was a mentor to a lot of the earlier, OG creators, that now, occasionally works at Target. Yeah. Or works in retail, or has had to move out of LA and gotten back to where they're from, and have had to find a day job.
Yeah,
I mean that's one of those things that people wouldn't imagine would happen, but it happens everywhere. But this is not new. This happened in the 70s.
It
happened in the 80s.
Yep.
You had a lot of those hair bands that made millions of dollars and made a lot of had a couple.
And they're
of
still
good
on
hits.
tour. You can see them at Target.
They're on tour, or they ended up having to go get a day job because they couldn't. They couldn't run their business in a very effective way. It's not about just being famous. It's about having a business plan and a vision.
Creating a brand. And
creating a brand.
Exactly.
And something that's going to self-sustain over time.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, one of the main reasons why I started VidSummit. VidSummit is a conference I put on every year, but one of the main reasons why I did that is I had so many creators reaching out to me and says, help, like I can't even make rent now, because of some change in the algorithm. I'm like, dude, like, I know how much money you're making, and I don't know why this didn't click. Like, aren't you reinvesting, and aren't you building, something a little bit more tangible than just taking a paycheck? And this is a frustrating point, but a lot of people feel like they're just a subcontractor of YouTube or whoever's paying them. I'm like, no, dude, like, you're your own IP, your own brand. You need to build out from there. And that was probably one of the main reasons why I did that, is I've seen so many people just super disconnect from that, and they don't really see the true opportunity.
And a couple of cases that I've seen that have been very sad, and I don't see it as much today. I think across the board, people have become a lot more knowledgeable of what the creative space is, and that it is literally building your business and making sure you have things covered, etc. But early on, there were a lot of these creators that started YouTube channels or these other ways of streaming their content, where they were making a lot of money, but they weren't paying taxes. and sometimes these were kids that still lived at home with their parents.
They're like, hey.
And their parents didn't know what they were doing. They just knew that they were making money, and they weren't paying taxes. And they got, they got a couple of letters and pretty bold notices from the IRS.
Right. Then you have on the flip side some really good creators that realize, oh, this Lambo is actually a prop. And you can write that sucker off. But anyway, I know we could go on for this for a very, very long time. We can, and we can do it from there. But really, really excited about our guest today, because before we kind of introduce him, one of the biggest issues that creators make, and especially early on, is what is copyright? Like, what can they use? What can't they use? I mean, I even have bigger YouTubers that's like, oh, I just got demonetized because I used this meme in there. I'm like, why did you do that? It's like, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars was lost because you had this like 2-second clip.
In the last 2 years, it seems like there's been a lot more drama around that.
Oh, there's so much drama. Yeah. But do you want to introduce our guest?
You know what? You go ahead.
I get to do
Devin's
it?
a good friend of yours,
right.
and
all right.
You can give more context, etc.
So we have the YouTuber Legal Eagle with us, and I'm really excited. Devin Stone is actually the creator behind that, but he's also worked in litigation for quite some time. You still have your law license, I
do,
would assume.
yeah.
And just happy to have him on. When I when we crossed paths, Devin was just about to really have his channel explode, and it was just grateful to be a part of a little bit of that.
So you met him 2 years ago, I'm assuming, or a year and a half ago.
It's been a year.
About a year.
Yeah,
so
about a year.
What's amazing is, last year, you got past 10,000 subscribers, and now, in less than a year or a little over a year, I mean, you have to tell me you're now over 500,000 subscribers?
I'm just about to hit 500,000 subscribers.
See, this is blowing my mind, because this is such a niche topic.
I don't think it's niche, though.
Well, if you look at Devin's content, it's not very niche. Like, he's applying it to a lot of different things going on. But like the topic of legal or law, that is something that's very specialized and niche. And if you would have told me that there's gonna like 5 years ago or like 10 years ago that there's a lawyer that was building an audience and making interesting content around legalese and different laws out there and averaging over 100,000 views a video, I would have said, haha, whatever.
Well, if I may respectfully disagree, the part of the mission of my channel is to help people think like a lawyer and to help demystify all of the laws that are around us every single day. And you guys talked about some of the examples of that are just invoked simply by virtue of being a creator on YouTube, and something that seems like it can't possibly involve legal issues. They're all over the place, and they're trapped for the unwary.
It's all over all the drama, for sure.
It is so bad.
You can literally create a drama channel now and just apply it
let's
to
just stay away from the
legal
drama.
issues.
Drama has ramifications you don't want.
And you have to be careful, because your ignorance of the law is not going to protect you if you run afoul of it. So you can't hide your head in the sand and just say, oh, well, I'm not going to pay attention to it and hope that things are going to work out. That's how lawsuits get started, is people aren't thinking about all of the illegal implications of their YouTube channel or their business or any of the things that we do on an everyday basis.
So Devin, give us some background for the listeners and viewers of this podcast. Like, how did you get started? Like, how did it all work out?
It started back in high school. I was given the choice for my senior English project to either write a long essay or to do a video presentation. And me and my three best friends said, to heck with this essay issue. And we ended up spending the entire senior year of high school working on a video that turned into a 45-minute parody of every English book that we read that year.
Oh, that's funny.
And I think we did the calculation, and for every finished minute that we had in the video, it ended up taking us 20 to 30 hours per person to get that done. Now, when I went to law school, I never thought that that was ever going to be something that was relevant to my vocation, but after practicing law and litigation in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. for over 10 years, I got the itch to be a creator as well. And I started with making videos that were laser focused on law students because I did pretty well in law school, and I wanted to make sure that everybody else that was going through law school didn't have the hellish experience that you always hear about and you see in Legally Blonde and things like that. And I wanted to make sure that they had some tactics and some strategies to do well in law school. And then after about a year, I had crossed the 10,000 subscriber mark of almost exclusively law students. And, I felt like
that's pretty impressive though, too.
I was very,
there's
very
not
happy
that many
with
law
that.
students that are actually in the United States. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just really
Exactly.
small market.
Sure.
And so after a year of laser focusing my content, and I think I had maybe one or two videos over 100,000 views, which I thought was spectacular. And this was totally unknown to my firm at the time. I didn't want to make the two worlds clash. I started focusing on more general interest things like educating people about legal issues in the news and reacting to portrayals of lawyers in movies and TV shows and explaining when the TV show is completely inaccurate, when people are making an objection to leading during cross-examination, when that's all cross-examination is supposed to be. And so almost a year to the day that we're recording this is the day that my channel popped. And it went from basically 15,000 subscribers, if that, to over 150,000 subscribers in a matter of 4 weeks.
That's amazing.
And then now here we are almost 12 months later, and I am just about to cross the 500,000 subscriber mark.
Yeah, and how many views? I mean, because you had some videos get several million views. Like, do you know what your collective views for your channel is?
Collective views is somewhere around 35 or 40 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been able to actually peek into his analytics. I can do that every once in a while.
I'm sorry, this was news to me.
Wait. Have you?
Come on.
Has he given you permission?
California has very strict invasion of privacy laws.
Oh, Derral.
We worked together a little bit. But what was really impressive to see something that you thought was never possible.
Yeah.
Never possible. You wouldn't think in a million years, but you look at...
Well, I'd expect a niche audience.
Yeah, but you look at all the...
Not that big of an audience. But I'm talking about 10 years ago.
You look at all the people that watched Law and Order. I don't even know how long has Law and Order been on the TV?
I think almost 30
years.
Yeah.
Like in Suits and all these different law shows, and they're really fascinated with law. And then Devin's taking it up a notch, and you're getting him. Not only that, people that are generally interested, but I can attest that the biggest growth for Devin was not necessarily on YouTube, but it was on Reddit, and Reddit kind of played that seed that came into YouTube, and then YouTube started to promote it out to more like-minded people.
That makes a lot of sense. Actually, it makes sense. These types of topics would be really popular on Reddit. But I think another thing that one thing that you'd probably have to look at of why it's been this successful as well is the education vertical on YouTube has been exploding for the last 3 years. You have, the Vsauce channels, the ASAP Science, game theorists. I mean, there's a lot of different education, channels out there, and a lot of them are becoming a lot more specific to different verticals. And looks like, you're the one paving the way for legal.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the ways that I look at my channel. I consider myself an educator. I always wanted to be an educator, and the tentpole videos that deal with the really popular movies and TV shows are the things that get you in the door. But I think the things that keep you on my channel is the fact that I'm going to teach you about the law itself. My quote reaction videos are less my reaction than me actually explaining the law itself. It's not going to be a sensational me, laughing all the time. It's going to be me explaining to you why this particular thing is accurate or why it's not accurate.
And how many laws they broke during the process.
And how many laws Batman and Willy Wonka broke in their various movies.
The child labor laws.
That
was
that
the
video
funniest.
exploded.
Yeah, that one did pretty well. And that's some of the video series that I have on the channel. And then others are more news focused and trying to explain why politicians did the thing that they did, or why the Department of Justice has done this specific thing, or why the Supreme Court case is important. And I look at those videos as being in opposition to the sort of screaming talking heads that you see on cable news, where it's just someone spouting off from the hip with this insane opinion, and it has no legal basis. And I think part of the value that I want to give to people is to give an explanation in an even-handed way, in a neutral way that you can trust that I'm not going to take sides for the most part, and I'm going to tell you the law as it is, and you don't have to worry about me screaming into a CNN or Fox News camera for hours at a time.
Have you been asked? Or, I think CNN and Fox News would probably take a long time to catch on what you're doing, but
They're a little slow on the uptake.
It'd be interesting to see if they'd ask you to come on as a guest and comment on different legal issues that are out there.
Not cable news. I've had some TV overtures. CNN and Fox News put out a quality product, and I would be more than happy to stop. I know, but
well, no. I mean, I think that's just going to naturally happen as you just keep growing.
I'm not sure that I'm particularly interested in that, because I want to make sure that I have the ability to have the creative control to educate people about these laws, because as we talked about, they're just everywhere, and unfortunately, if you screw them up, the consequences can be quite dire.
Sure. If you don't mind me asking, what's your demographic breakdown? Like, I mean, who's following your content? Like, how old are they?
At the moment, it is pretty heavily sort of 20 to 35, skews a bit male. And seem to be, from what I can tell, I mean, obviously, YouTube doesn't give all of the demographic information, but reasonable young professionals and some, I think, middle-aged professionals as well.
It's interesting, though. One of the main things that I know I look at is the type of engagement from the audience. So there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube that will actually get the views, but they don't have the volume of engagement in comments and having that interaction even within like a thread that's going on. What I've been kind of blown away by is the engagement on his videos. And we're not talking about people that are just making comment, oh, this is a good video. Devin has a strategy where he says, hey, if you disagree with me, go ahead and object. Put it, your objections in the comments below.
Yeah, that is a thing on the channel that you shouldn't comment, you should object.
Exactly.
And if you leave your comment in the form of an objection, I'll be more likely to respond to it.
He'll overrule it. And then he has a dog that is the mascot of the channel.
The legal beagle, Stella the legal beagle.
And she's not a beagle either. But anyway, what I'm getting at is there are legal discussions that are happening in the threads of that video, and there's debates that's going on, and it's like really, really engaging. You have some that have thousands of just different responses within one thread. And so it's crazy.
I've been incredibly impressed with the level of discourse in my comments. Everybody talks about the dumpster fire that are the comment sections on occasion, but I first of all, having the power to overrule or sustain objections is it'll make anyone drunk with power. But I think people appreciate it, and people come for more level-headed discussions, and it shows in a lot of the comments sections, and it's been great it's also great fun to just read through what people think about those things.
And what I like about is how you're trying to take an unbiased approach. You're saying, this is just the law, this is what it is. You can debate with yourself, but this is the law, and that's what I love too. Let's switch gears because I think a big topic at hand, and it's been in a lot of creators' minds of all the copyright issues that are going on. And I think in general, is something that creators should be concerned with, just because there's a lot of different ramifications that they don't even know about. Do you want to just take a minute and talk about maybe 2 or 3 different issues that creators face using, with copyright law?
Looking at the YouTube ecosystem in general, one of the things that leaps out to me is sort of the manifest inequality between creators and a lot of the people that own some of the underlying IP that often gets used on YouTube. Because there's a whole system of people who are commenting on things that have a copyright, or there are creators who want to include songs in their channels. And on the one hand, I would say that there's an inherent unfairness in that the studios and labels have an army of attorneys who do nothing all day but look for videos to demonetize, and it's not really demonetized from their end. They're just taking the money from the creators. On the one hand, there's the creators who don't have that kind of support or knowledge, and on top of that, creators often don't know ahead of time what is okay to include in a video, and on the back end, if they do get a claim made against their video, they don't know what is the right way to fight, and they don't know if they should fight in the first instance. And one of the amazing things about YouTube is that we've created this system that is not copyright law per se. It's just this weird quasi-legal system that YouTube has created to, it came in the wake of the 2007 Viacom lawsuit, where Viacom sued YouTube for violating copyright for hosting pirated videos. And they created this system that allows the rights holders to claim videos for copyright infringement, and then the money just goes from creators to the studios. The thing is, the creators may or may not be infringing copyright. There is a fair amount of copyright infringement that's out there, but the studios and labels are 100% happy with this agreement. This,
of course,
is, they are.
There's no recourse. They just said, "Oh, this is ours," and they can manually do it too.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what can you do?
And they get paid literally billions of dollars per year by taking the money from creators and just pocketing it. And there was no license agreement there, and there was no discussion of whether they were allowed to do it in the front end. But in some ways, it's great because the creators are allowed to put videos out there. It may technically be copyright infringement, but often the video gets demonetized, and the studios and labels then are able to have a revenue stream from them. And in some ways, creators are a little bit protected in the sense that someone doesn't have to file suit in order to get that money stream because the transaction costs are too small. But it is this weird quasi-legal system that exists only in the world of YouTube, and it's gonna. I don't think it's sustainable. I think
I think it's at a breaking point right now. I really do. It's like the content creators are getting a little bit more edgy, and they're getting a little bit more knowledgeable. And they're ready to take some action. But two, in YouTube's defense, like it is so complex with everything that's going on, what's being uploaded. They do have technology now to really. They've always had the content ID, but they're getting a lot more sophisticated with the AI. The big thing though is when someone does a manual claim, YouTube just made it available. It's not across the full platform that they're actually doing a timestamp, which is kind of one of those concerns. Like, where did I violate copyright law?
It was completely insane that someone could file a manual claim against your video, and you don't have the ability to have a granular rev share. So for the most part, it is, there's a half a second of music in your video. I get all of your money as all of your AdSense. I mean, that in and of itself was crazy. But on top of it, you could say that there was copyright infringement going on and not even tell the creator where this underlying copyrighted material was. Yep. So I am very glad to see that YouTube is heading in that particular direction. I don't think it's going to be enough. I think we have seen time after time of creators who were doing videos that are what I would consider as a lawyer, complete fair use, to be protected by copyright law. And there's a claim made against them. And because of really scary language in the content ID system, they don't fight these things.
Yeah. So like, let's just make you the czar of YouTube, just for a minute, because we can do that, right? Especially hypothetically. So what would you do to change it? Like what are some of the things that YouTube could do right now to fix it?
Ooh, this would be a good topic for a video.
It really would be.
Real Lawyer explains how to fix the YouTube system.
Exactly.
So I think there are a couple of things that are relatively low-hanging fruit. One is that I think there needs to be a difference in the way that certain channels are treated. If you have one subscriber and no history on YouTube, then I'm not sure that particular channel needs to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to being able to upload things. But if you have a long history of uploading content in a way that is legal, if you have won every copyright dispute that you have had to deal with, that might create a presumption in favor of your channel. And I think that there needs to be different tracks for different creators. And I think one thing that would help with that is maybe there's a subscriber threshold, but I think that certain creators need to make an affirmative declaration of fair use to say, yes, I am using this underlying IP, but I am adding extensive commentary and I'm transforming the nature of this thing. And I am not usurping the original purpose of this movie or TV show or song, and make an affirmative declaration to then give the creator the benefit of the doubt, so that when let's say a music channel like Adam Neely or 12 Tone is putting out a analysis of a song. They're saying, I am using this particular song. And if that publisher then comes around and says, no, that's copyright infringement, we're going to demonetize you.
So you're saying even like at the upload, they're saying, this is a song that's in it and I'm using it and we're doing it for fair use. So it's just basically a part of the process of the upload?
Yes, exactly. And it could
actually be brilliant. Yeah.
You could actually even use the exact same options that you get when you have to fight a copyright dispute. YouTube gives you 7 or 8 little radio buttons that say, oh, I'm using this content because I own the CD, or I'm not using it for a commercial purpose, which, by the way, are total red herrings. They just include them to trip up creators. And then you have lower down the options to say, this is okay because it is considered fair use or it's in the public domain. Well, why can't we flip that around and say, as a creator, I know that I am using underlying IP. I mean, personally for myself as a attorney who comments on legal movies and legal TV shows, like I know I am using someone else's copyrighted material, but the Copyright Act, 17 U.S.C. 107, fair use, says that I have the right to make these commentary videos. And I would be more than happy to make a declaration that says, I am going to use someone's IP and it's okay, and flip it around so that I don't have to deal with potentially having a video blocked for weeks,
right,
or have it demonetized for weeks.
And they did a pretty good job in the sense of, hey, we'll hold the money, kind of be an escrow until you kind of sort things out, go from there. But the issue is there's always a workaround, and there's always things that's there. But the thing that would always get my goat, because that's what they would do, is get my goat. But it was like, you're always guilty 100% of the time.
Right.
And it's just like, how do you even escalate it? And these creators, like you said, are really frustrated, and they're like, oh man, this is really legal talk. I can't even hire someone, can't even do that. And they're really, really scared. So what do? They delete the video.
And as far as I can tell, Yeah. And as far as I can tell, there are no legal repercussions to the big companies that will levy hundreds of thousands or millions of copyright claims a day. And maybe not the majority of them, but a lot of those are not proper copyright claims.
So and that's been always my big beef is, 3 strikes and you're out, and they'll terminate your creator. But what about the person that's actually doing these bogus, claims? Like there needs to be a slap on the wrist. Now, YouTube has made a public statement saying, yes, there is ramifications, and there are some MCNs that are now no longer associated with YouTube or they're just totally disconnected from it because they were abusing that portion of it. But still, all in all, it seems like it's just more, hey, we're erring on the side of the so-called copyright holder, even if they're not the copyright holder.
Right.
So have there been situations where people have claimed or flagged your videos?
Every single one.
Every single one.
I think almost every single review/reaction video I've ever done has been claimed by someone.
And so what is usually the step-by-step process that you take? I mean, that I guess other creators could learn from.
Yeah, well, at this point, I just look at it as sport. I think it's great fun.
You know all the laws.
You don't know who you can
you're very informed, so you know details that others don't.
I'm not locked in here with you. You are locked in here with me. So, you know, I did a search fairly recently to see how some creators have dealt with them, just as a point of comparison, because I started doing it just the only way that I knew how, which was as a litigator. And I was shocked to see that when people are given the option to sort of include some of their rationale, they add one word to each thing. You know, explain why it's fair use, transformative. Oh my God, you've got to do more than that. So, so what I do on the front end, and I actually have a disclaimer in all of my videos that explains that they're all fair use, and I have 2 citations to some really good court cases out of New York and California. And if there are creators out there that want a good summary of what the law of fair use is, all they have to do is take those citations. One is the very famous H3 Hosenside versus Klein case. And parenthetically, Ethan and Hilla Klein really did creators a favor by taking that case to the mat, because they did make law and really clarified things in a way that is very good for creators. So, so I would look up the 2 cases that I cite there as a background for fair use. But I basically write legal briefs. I have by this time done this so many times that I have a template that I use, and when you fight a dispute, that's the first level of the content ID system. You're given one of those boxes, those HTML boxes, to include as much as you like. Most people write a few sentences. My dispute, I think, is 500 to 1,000 words. Oh my gosh. Wow. And I look at it as a summary judgment motion, and I put my best arguments forward. I explain step by step all of the fair use factors, why it applies, why my video is considered fair use. Unfortunately, I don't think rights holders tend to take the disputes very seriously. I think a lot of it is done algorithmically, a digital fingerprint sort of thing. So a lot of times, even though I sign it, Devin Stone, Esquire, attorney at law, there still are a fair number of disputes that that go to the next stage, which is the appeal stage. And when you check the box for fair use, it will say, okay, you said that this video is fair use. Explain why. And all it does is track the statutory language. So it sounds very stilted. It doesn't make any sense. YouTube is not doing creators any favor to explain what they need to include. But they then give one of those HTML boxes for each of the 4 fair use factors. And I wrote my brief, as it were, in Word, and it, depending on the video, it's 10 to 15 pages long. And I just copy and paste each relevant section into each of the boxes. And unfortunately, YouTube strips away all of the formatting. So when I submit the thing, it is one solid text block that is 15 pages long.
That'll teach them.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I feel bad for the poor sap that has to read my my response. But, you know, it's done on purpose in a way that is accurate from a legal perspective. It's persuasive from a rhetorical perspective. And whether it's a lawyer that reads my response or whether it is just some poor guy earning minimum wage dealing with YouTube disputes, I want them to know that I am very serious when it comes to those things. And I want my response to be different from all of the millions of other disputes that are disputed on a daily basis. And I would say
Have you lost an appeal yet?
Never. Never.
And what's the next step after that?
After you deal with the appeal is the DMCA takedown stage. And what's interesting, you know, we talked about this weird quasi-legal system that YouTube has created that the studios and labels absolutely love. Well, that ends at the appeal stage. When you get to the appeal stage, The rights holder does not have a choice but except to release the claim or to file a DMCA takedown, which is a legal notice that is set by law. We're now entering into real copyright territory. This is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And at that point, if they file a DMCA takedown, YouTube will take down your video. They don't have a choice. And they will also issue a copyright strike against you. And unfortunately, a lot of creators freak out at that stage, and they will just simply delete the video. And while that's not necessarily the worst idea, it does leave the copyright strike on your channel, and 3 copyright strikes and you're out. But there are real legal repercussions that can flow to the studios and labels that file a DMCA takedown with YouTube, and they really don't like to do that because they can be on the hook for attorney's fees if people do take them to the mat. The instances of people doing that.
And are you just waiting for that to happen? You're just like, okay, I can't wait.
I've only dealt with one DMCA takedown, which I won. Fair warning to the next studio or label that issues one. I'd love to go after them and take my attorney's fees.
That needs to be a little serious on your channel because that would be fun to watch.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Like behind the scenes.
No. It'd be like Matlock. We're going to solve this. But no, that'd be awesome.
Well, that'd be a good idea to it'd be great for creators to be able to have that type of support and help. Just knowing your step-by-step process would be very enlightening. Because I doubt people have a template.
No, well, here's the thing about it is, where do they even get the template from?
Sure.
Who's actually studying law on this? And it's so complex. It's so, like you said, YouTube's a weird beast. It really is. And how do you know what to do? And it's just like, I just tell my clients, just avoid any appearance of anything.
Your clients that are creators.
Yeah. I'm like, don't use music unless you own it. Don't there's a lot of different things that, I try to instill in them because it's just so complicated, and it can get where it takes a lot of time out of creators' lives when they want to just create content, not fight some dispute.
And the stakes are incredibly high. I think most creators don't quite understand that because they've been lulled into a relatively false sense of security based on the YouTube system. Right. A lot of my legal career has been spent litigating actual copyright claims that involve actual copyright infringement. And by way of example, one of the last copyright cases I handled, I was representing some actors and directors in some movie studios, and a screenwriter filed suit against them claiming that they released a movie that infringed on this screenwriter's copyright in a screenplay. We felt that the lawsuit was meritless, and we were successful in that respect, but we ended up getting our fees from the plaintiff. So imagine you're a plaintiff, you are trying to stop people from infringing from your IP, and you think the worst case, the worst possible thing that could happen is the case goes away and gets dismissed. Not true when you're dealing with copyright. Often attorney's fees are on the table, and we won $320,000 in attorney's fees from the plaintiff. And I've dealt with other copyright claims where someone included artwork without permission, and we ultimately recovered hundreds of thousands of dollars because of this copyright infringement. The stakes are higher than people recognize, and it's all the more reason it's crazy to think that you can go alone, or that you can really even get away with not including copyrighted material. Because say you're walking down the street and you happen to walk by a cafe that's playing a song on the radio. If that gets in your video, that's considered copyright infringement. And you thought you were doing everything reasonable. You weren't purposefully including things, and don't even get me started about the meme economy that we have, where people are using animated GIFs or short clips for the mimetic reactions. And I think copyright law is going to have to change when it comes to those things, but as it stands, there are all kinds of legal landmines for creators to have to deal with.
Let's take a step back. So you talked about H3H3, and how he kind of paved the way. Could you kind of bring people up to speed a little bit? What actually happened there?
Yeah,
and because I think that's really important. I think that'll lead into some really interesting discussion. So
that is one of my favorite cases. It's not my favorite copyright case, but it is definitely in probably my top 5. Ethan and Hilla Klein, the creators behind H3H3 Productions, known for their commentary, did a review of a very, very cringeworthy video called Parkour Guy, I don't know, Stalks Workout Girl or something like that. It's an 8-minute video of just cringe-inducing video where a guy basically stalks a woman on the street. And I guess it's done for comedic reasons. If I was that creator, I would not have released that video, but creators come in all shapes and sizes. So H3H3 Productions does a 15 or so minute video where they basically watch that video from start to finish and comment extensively on the video, explaining how cringeworthy it was and how you would not want to be the woman that was being stalked by this guy. And the guy who released the original video did not like the criticism, and so he filed a DMCA takedown and eventually a copyright suit against H3H3 Productions, claiming that it was not fair use for them to comment on this video.
wow.
And so you get lawyers involved and the stakes immediately get raised. And so they went through the YouTube system. They took it to the lawsuit stage, and this guy filed suit in New York federal court. H3H3 Productions then reaches out to the creators out there for support, and they start a Indiegogo or a Patreon for their legal defense. They went through $100,000 in legal fees in the first month.
Whoa.
Wow.
But they toughed it out. They brought it to a stage that is, for all intents and purposes, it's a motion to dismiss. And copyright law is good in the sense that often the only thing that matters is the underlying copyrighted material and the sort of overlying copyrighted material, the commentary that's on top. So it usually doesn't have to get to a trial. Usually you can deal with it on paper and say, and I've done this a lot, judge, just look at the first video and look at the second video and make a judgment call on which one is legal and which one isn't. And so that's what they did. And they took it to a motion to dismiss or summary judgment. And the judge, as a matter of law, looked at H3H3 Productions video and said, this is fair use as a matter of law, and does a really good summary of what fair use is. There are 4 factors for fair use. The first one is that it has to have a transformative purpose. In other words, you can't use the underlying work for exactly the same purpose as it was created. So often that means you're adding extensive commentary, or in the case of parody, you are parodying the work. So you are making a social comment about that work. You're criticizing it. Like, we want people to be able to make movie reviews. We want people to be able to comment on newsworthy videos. The idea behind US copyright law is that we want to incentivize more speech, add to the marketplace of ideas. And that's in contrast to, say, satire, which is just using a copyrighted work to make a social comment, generally speaking. That's not okay, generally speaking. But if you're parodying or commenting on the underlying work itself, and you're making a message about that work, that is often okay. The other 3 factors include the nature of the copyrighted work, whether it is factual or dramatic, whether it is published or unpublished. The third factor is the amount that you have used. So for it to be fair use, you have to only use the minimum amount necessary. Now, obviously, there's going to be some leeway there. Courts don't like to say, well, you could have used less, and let's say you publish an entire 2-hour video and then at the end you say, oh, that was good. That's
What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that almost
give you a
certainly
review now.
that is certainly commentary about that video
Sure.
or movie, but you have not used the minimum amount necessary. And then the fourth factor is the market harm. Have you usurped the market for that thing in a way that is not allowed by law? So the law doesn't recognize harm from the criticism itself, but if people, say, are going to listen to your song instead of the original song, that cuts against an issue of fair use. And all of these factors are weighed. So there is absolutely no bright line that says, oh, well, if you check off these two factors, it's fair use. It is a balancing test. And so to go back to H3H3, they took it to the mat, they took it to the judge, and the judge weighed the factors and did a great analysis of the commentary that H3H3 added to the video, said it was fair use, and now that is a district court case in the Southern District of New York that, because it's a trial court, it's not mandatory authority, but it is very, very persuasive for any creator out there that is doing commentary on YouTube.
That is a huge win for the community. Like, I mean, that's something that's really exciting because it's now, passed in court, and so for future issues, people can always reference that ruling.
I still think that we're in the wild, wild west. I don't know if that's what you feel, but like for me, it's just like we really don't understand just with the way that technology is emerging, how laws of the past are actually being used now. And I feel like it's still the wild, wild west. I mean, you look on Facebook and Instagram and, TikTok. I mean, there's a lot of copyright issues that are just occurring at a very rapid rate. And there's nothing that they're doing to counteract that. I mean, nothing noticeable.
Oh, 100%. And you can tell every time that YouTube updates their content ID algorithm because you get a slew of people on Twitter and Instagram that say, oh my God, this video that is 3 years old has been demonetized out of nowhere.
Yep.
And it's because the technology is getting so good that it can recognize all of these different songs and videos that are being used.
That or someone that owns those IPs are able to connect to the server. There's ways that they can have remote servers saying, hey, this is all our content. Like NBC is not going to upload all their content to YouTube just to do the claim. So they actually have servers that they can connect to. Is that, oh, no, this is the same ID. We own that IP, and they're able to do it.
Yeah, and there are all kinds of copyright myths associated with that too. I can't tell you the number of creators that have said, "Oh, if I only use 3 seconds of a song, then I'm protected." And it is absolutely not the case. There is no 3-second rule. There's no 5-second rule.
Tell that to a creator that just got 30 million video views on his video. I guess it wasn't 30; it's like 15. But and it was the 3-second meme that he put in there. Like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, it used to be in the old days that you could change the pitch of a song, or you could compress it and do all these little technological tricks. And often you're doing it for a good reason. If I go back to the music education channels, they're actually explaining the chord progression of a song. And the only way you can do that is by using the song itself. And they're using the minimum amount necessary. And they would change the pitch and they would change the things simply so that they wouldn't have to deal with the hassle of the content ID system. They would win the content ID claim, but it's a whole nother level to just have to deal with that, especially when you're putting out multiple videos a week. We have seen creators get hundreds of claims, in an instant like that. And often what I've seen studios and labels do is that when they see a popular video that includes some copyrighted work, they say, I'm going to claim that one, but now I'm going to go check out all the other videos that this creator has. And that is how you get hundreds of claims all at once. And, there are other copyright myths that feed into this as well, such as the idea that if you're not using the recording and you have a song and you play it yourself and you sing it yourself, well that's not copyright infringement. I didn't use the recording.
We had a YouTuber that someone in the background was just reciting the lyrics of a song and wasn't singing it, whatever. Copyright claim like that. And it is. I mean, like that is the copyright.
There used to be a lot of, music parody creators out there.
Parody's different though.
Yeah, parody's different, but still there was a lot of music parody creators and also a lot of just cover creators, and that's been a vertical that's slowed down quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And the cover that's where it's the biggest risk, right? Because you're singing someone else's thing and you're monetizing off of it.
Yeah, I believe YouTube has a system that works with the compulsory license that deals with cover songs, because there is such a thing in the copyright law that allows an artist to do a cover without getting permission ahead of time, and there are statutory fees that must be paid. And I believe that YouTube has built that into the system.
They have, yeah.
But for the most part, when you don't
You just don't make as much money as other creators.
Right. Yeah, and for the most part, when you do these things that are not using the actual underlying recording and then just doing your own, or singing the chorus with your buddies, technically what you have done is created what's called a derivative work. And people think about copyright law in terms of, well, I'm not going to literally copy and paste the copyrighted work into the video, but really, the bundle of rights that you get with a copyright include the ability to make adaptations and derivatives. So to turn a book into a movie, or to turn a magazine article into a longer form essay, or to take a book and make it into a condensed version. These are all derivative works that only the original copyright holder can do. And it's a real trap for people to think that just because they are not using that MP3 or using that WAV file that is obviously copyright infringement, you can still get into trouble with that. I've seen a number of creators do that.
It's so complex, Ricky. I don't even know if I want to deal with it. No, there's just a lot going on, and it's like when I really cut my teeth in audience development, I was working with some musicians, and I got to know copyright law really, really well in a lot of different aspects, and know the different types of copyright, or I'm sorry, basically law that's dealing with music in general, and that's a lot more complex because there's a lot more hands in it, and there's a lot more precedent, I guess, over the years. And what I found, though, is I tend to stay away from clients that deal with that. I just for me, it's just it's too much work. It's just because you can get nailed by all the labels and everything from there, and then you have to fight that, and that takes so much time, and it's just ugh. Well, it's frustrating. I
mean, that is one of the more insidious repercussions from this, is the self-censorship that goes on, whether it's thinking that you can't be associated with that kind of thing, or whether it is the individual creator who refrains from making a really great video because they are afraid of that. That's we'll never hear the bell that didn't ring, and that's a real shame. And music can be incredibly complicated. One of the worst things, the saddest examples that I've seen recently is a couple of creators who included a song in their outro music. So it was in basically every video that they did going back years. We're talking hundreds of videos. And they did the right thing. At least they thought they did the right thing. They got a license from the musician. The problem is the musician illegally sampled a different song in the song that they licensed to the creator. So when their channel got tagged to the tune of hundreds of claims, technically the studio was right to do it because they did not have all of the rights all the way down. And what do you do as a creator when you're in that situation? Luckily, YouTube
can edit things out.
Now they can.
Goodness.
As of today, they say they're going to increase the suite of tools that are available in the editor to edit stuff out after it has been published. But beforehand, a lot of times you were just absolutely screwed, and it's terrible because that creator did everything right, and your heart just goes out for these people.
Because they had the wrong team, or somebody made a mistake. They've been screwed over.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's tough.
This is depressing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we wrap up, this is something that's very complicated, and it's obviously complicated for a lot of creators, and there's probably a lot of creators that just give up and don't try to dispute claims, etc. What is this some high level wisdom that they should just look at and just be aware of, just to make sure that everything in their overall business is being covered?
Hire a lawyer, some sort of legal eagle, so to speak.
Wait, are you looking for work?
Sadly, I'm turning away clients. A pound of prevention is worth. I'm sorry, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if you're in doubt, you can find attorneys who can help with these sorts of things, and you can do things on a flat fee. There are people that are building a niche practice dealing with this kind of stuff. But unfortunately, the old wisdom of just avoid copyrighted stuff entirely probably doesn't work anymore, just because it's all over the place. Mm-hmm. So my advice is do your homework. At least make a good faith effort to try to understand what the law is, and when you think you're in the right, you should fight it, because I'm tired of seeing creators getting bullied around by these big corporations. But we'll just have to see how this shakes out in the future, because I think it's untenable with the amount of false claims that are made, and I think that something is going to have to give, and YouTube is going to have to choose the side of the studios and labels or the creators. I think they have, for the last 10 years, they've been on the side of the labels.
Yeah. I would say that their track record is not for the creators right now.
Absolutely.
It used to be, but pretty much the Viacom lawsuit and, the things that they had in place is like, no, they're more afraid of all the legal ramifications on that end. So that's like, oh, okay, it's just easier to do that. And there's a lot of people that are left in the wake. I mean, they're literally left in the wake. And it's sad. It's sad, especially when it's dealing with people's livelihood, and they're in the right, And so, no, I would definitely really appreciate you coming on and sharing this. Now, I know that you have some resources for creators that are becoming available.
Yeah. So, on the topic of creative disruption, credits roll. I've been somewhat uniquely situated as an attorney first and a creator second, who looks at this whole system through the eyes of a trial lawyer and a civil litigator. And, unfortunately, there probably are not a whole lot of creators that can afford my hourly fee, but I have spent the last few months writing somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000 words on a system to help creators. And so I created a website called copyrightcourse.com that is going to be a system for creators who find themselves either wanting to know what the limits of the law are, or if you have a copyright claim against you, knowing not only whether you should fight it, but how to fight it.
So this is going to be specifically for creators.
It is. Yeah, we're going to start with YouTubers specifically, because that's
it's the ecosystem. That's where we're at right now.
That's where we are, and that's my favorite video platform of choice. It's taking my years of legal practice and condensing it down into a form that other creators can use when they have to deal with these things. And so much of my channel is focused on helping people learn how to think like a lawyer, and the copyright course is going to help them fight like a lawyer, because
I love it.
I'm tired of people getting bullied by corporations that basically have unlimited resources. And not only that, they make a profit on the backs of creators. And I just want to give creators the tools to be able to deal with it on their own. It's going to be a course and a system using the templates that I have created that can be customized for the individual creator, depending on the channel, depending on the nature of the defense that they are using. A lot of it focuses on fair use, but I've actually, I think, created some really interesting and potentially groundbreaking defenses in terms of what's a legal defense called de minimis use, which is something that is so minor as to be not considered copyright infringement. It's something that not people are really talking about, but I think that it is something that applies in the YouTube system. And so I just want to give creators the tools that they need and that they deserve to fight these kinds of things for them, so that the community can grow and thrive and add to the marketplace of ideas with more videos and more commentary, exactly like the Copyright Act was intended to do.
So that's copyrightcourse.com.
Copyrightcourse.com.
All right. And thank you, Devin, so much for coming on.
Thank you so
there's,
much.
Like, seriously, if there's anyone watching here from YouTube, like, that works and employed by YouTube, listen to what he said in this video, because ultimately the system needs to be improved and updated. And he had some really, really good ideas. Thank everyone for watching, and make sure you subscribe, follow, and we'll see you on the next podcast.